Okay, perfect. Oh yeah, I forgot that's a thing. So, hello. Oh, is that actually going now? Is that better? Perfect. Okay, so Python one-liners. You all can see the subtitle. This is not the most serious presentation. I am just hoping to make you guys laugh a little bit, have a good time, learn some Python. Pythonic code is something else, and I love it for that. I stand by that Python's one of my favorite languages, and it's because of weird stuff like this. So we'll start off with what is Pythonic code. We see like a for else loop. That's a legitimate thing. I think introduced in 3.7 or something. But yeah, real thing. So Pythonic code, what is it? So it's just features in Python that don't really exist in any other coding language. Sure, they can be implemented really easy, but that short end of just being able to write something that you know will work, that is just simple syntax, makes it so much nicer. It makes very efficient code in terms of like line count, maybe not running. Everyone knows Python's notoriously not the best for, hey, I need to do this large operation and I need it done right now. You can get the code out quick, but the operation might take a little bit longer. So, and then also like you look at this stuff and it just like really doesn't make sense if I don't tell you exactly what it means. And like, of course you're gonna get there and understand, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. But when you first look at it, it's kind of funny. Like, I don't know, I looked at this stuff and I'm like, oh, someone's pulling my leg. They did like an April Fool's release. Okay, very funny, Python, whatever it is. And I personally stand by that some of these things are gonna become like your best friend when you're just like writing short scripts using Python. And ultimately, again, like the goal of it said, you're gonna learn something new. You're gonna hopefully laugh. I hope to get a little bit heckled. Gotta have some fun, and maybe even get you into subscribing to Python. So our first stepping stone to one-lining everything in Python is one-lining functions. So lambda functions, it's used for something simple like, hey, I need to make a filter. Anything that I put in X, I want greater than 5. Okay, good. That's cool. Or actually, I want to go back. But just to talk about these, because these are some of my favorites, just weird looking code snippets. For else, you ever like deal with like, hey, did this break and you have to have like 12 different if statements in your for loop to figure out if you actually found your exit condition? Python handles it with the for else. If you break out of it, you won't go to the else, and if you run through your entire for loop, it'll execute the else. Really nice, really simple. And then this yield keyword. So this is any function into making it a generator. So generator basically means that, say you're iterating over an array, and you go to that function, call it once, okay, now you got the first letter, you call it another time, get the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever it is. It's a really efficient way of listing out anything. So if you know how range works, it works exactly like this. It isn't storing every number 1 to 1,000. It's a generator that knows how to increment. So yeah, getting back to the lambda functions. Sorry, I forgot about those. Those are fun little snippets that you'll find a meaning for them somewhere. Be like that cool little, like, I'll go onto the Python wiki and look up something really weird. But yeah. So the lambda functions really not meant to be used for anything more than, hey, I need an inline function right here. I need to pass it as a parameter. Okay, good. But we can very easily expand this into many other use cases. So first off, it's defined using, as you guessed, the word lambda. You saw the board, whatever it is. And basically, it's lambda, whatever variables you have for the function, colon, and then whatever kind of operation you want. And whatever the result of that is, returns. So you can only have like a unary return there. So if for whatever reason you're doing like a lot of different statements in it, which we'll be getting into later, you just choose one of them and send it. So the walrus operator. Again, I think the PEP standard didn't get like updated for a while, so like VS Code would be like, that's incorrect, and like separate them and like get all pissed at you. But again, a really cool thing. Basically allows you to return and assign variables at the same time. So like you're in an if statement and you're like, oh, I have to check this, or I have to check if this is equal to something. And then in the next line, I also have to return that same something. So instead of putting that line before saying, hey, evaluate this, then we're going to compare it, then we're going to return, you can then evaluate and assign at the same exact time so that you can use it again. So these are very useful in one-liners because, hint, hint, in one-liners, Python doesn't like when you use the normal assigning operator. It'll throw out errors saying, hey, you're not supposed to do this, big no-no. But yeah, just works like any other assignment operator. Only thing it will get mad at you for is just using it on its own, because it's not really meant to just be like test walrus equals, or like walrus operator, whatever you want to call it, 1. Like there's really no use for it, so we'll throw an error with that. So just looking at it, you can get a little bit cleaner code. Like I mentioned, like with this one, instead of having to do that initial like comparison or you initially have to assign it, get the new value, such and so forth, you can use one less line, which a little bit of code efficiency, really nice, whatever it is. And you can see above, you can use parentheses in order to say exactly what you want to be taking. Because if you didn't have those parentheses in the first one, that if solution would just be whatever is equal to the x times y, not equal to 29. So it'd be some kind of Boolean, stuff like that. So that's another big thing you have to understand with the walrus operator, that you have to limit its scale. So for loops, hint, hint, okay, for loops also exist in one-line form. So it's basically just a really simple way, very speakable almost. Very easy just to say, hey, I want to iterate this, and I don't want to write an entire for loop comparing stuff, whatever it is. It makes it really easy for filtering an array because it will go through and make an entire new one for you. Bonus information, it returns an unpacked iterable. You really don't need to know this unless you want to. So if you put this into a function like all, those are all considered different parameters. So really cool how you can use it like that. You can put it right into array. It'll count as all different parameters. It'll individually separate them. Just some really cool stuff. I personally really like how it reads. Like for the top example, it's y is equal to, and then I squared for all I in x. So you're taking that basic operation for variable in iterable. So like you'd have like for I in x colon, and then you'd go on to the next line. You're just declaring what you're doing with it in that initial one where you're like squaring the I. You can do anything with it. Then you can see on the bottom, you can even do nested loops. Those look a lot more nasty, but it makes sense when you look at it. You're basically creating one iterable and another and then running through them multiple times is what it is, but it is ugly. I wouldn't say that. I would not recommend it for normal code if you're doing nested loops. Still, pretty fun. Keywords. So stuff like import is part of what they call dunder functions. Dunder being like double underscore, and then whatever it's called, double underscore. So these make it really are like a different way for you to do anything. So if you're adding arrays, it has a dunder function, so you know how you add them. So x dunder add y is the same as x plus y, at least for like arrays or anything that has that add function. Of course, doesn't exactly do that. You see in the bottom is where we start to get into that nastiness of we've taken all three of those lines. We've been able to import using the dunder import. You specify a string of the name of the module, and you're able to assign a name to it using the walrus operator. And then you can do this at multiple levels. So we see in one of those parentheses, we're naming socket, and then we move out one and then just call the socket the socket function, not like actually calling it, but assigning it to the value sock, so we get it a little bit nicer. And then we're able to call that again and use the socket keywords, even though we just assigned them. So really nice stuff that you can do. A ton of dunder functions. We'll go in a little bit more with like exit and with context libraries a little bit, or context managers with context lib. Next one, ternary operators. Okay, we handled our for, we handled our just pretty much everything else, but we're yet to say how do we if else? How do we choose between two different items? Again, in normal code, this is really nice. Say you don't want to break up like your one line of code into two, you have to write the same thing over and over again. You can take a single item and break, or single option of parameters, break it into two. And again, very human readable. This operation, if a condition, else another another return operation, whatever it is. So you can break this into ellipse. It's very much like that, like before there was ellipse. So you're doing if else, and then if else, and then it just chains on that else. So it does look a little bit weird. First time you're going to really see an if else in Python, or if else instead of elif. A little bit different, but still really cool. So yeah, works as it reads, takes that general operation, if condition, else operation. I love this just because you can find so many uses for it. I use this daily when I'm writing any Python. And again, can be chained to make ellipse. So there is one constraint, the try except blocks. For whatever reason in Python, they decided that there should be no single line try except, which sucks. It does. There are ways to get around it, but it doesn't work in normal plain Python. You can see these look really nasty. We're importing context lib.suppress in order to call or enable to instantiate it using an expression just to then call it again. Not to mention that with operator is not tuple friendly, which we'll talk about later. So we can't even combine that with another line that's just a single line, which is sad. But we can kind of make stuff like this. And then again, with the exec clause in the bottom, okay, you can write Python in one line, but all you're doing is just adding new line, tab characters, whatever it is. It's not the fun of it, which I do find this kind of fun. Call me a masochist, whatever you want, but I find it fun. Yeah, so the exec, really simple way to do it. It's just taking any string you have and running it through the Python compiler. So you can exec the string print text, and right there, you can print text, whatever it is. But yeah, this is sad. I did create a solution for this. My first thought is that we should be able to, first, like the previous one, we import the context lib, create it. Then your exit condition, another dunder function, is basically what it does on exit. I thought, hey, what if we edit that, add a lambda function to it, such that you can edit whatever it does on exit. Python doesn't like it. You'll see in the center there's a little red underline after the equals, and it's like, hey, you're missing parentheses. I'm not missing any parentheses. It just doesn't like it. It gets confused. It gets mad at me. It is what it is. So the only other way that I've been able to figure it out is I wrote a custom function myself. Just better suppress, I called it, and takes an exception, a function, and then whatever args or quargs are sending to them. Also, another thing, if you don't know what args and quargs are, highly suggest. Those are very cool for any context managers, any decorators, anything like that. You can do a ton with it because you can pass as many args or quargs, keyword operators, so or keyword arguments. So if you say this word or this variable is equal to such, even though it doesn't necessarily have that in the function, really cool. And then you can iterate through them, and it acts as a dictionary. So you have that try except block that just sends it to whatever function you're calling, and then based on whether it fails or not, you get true or false back. So you can use this inline, call your function, know whether it failed or not, and you have all the functionality of a try except, which is exactly what we want. So we can do this, but it does make us use multiple lines just to get that function. So I don't call it a fix. So what now? We've learned how to condense pretty much any multi-line item down to a single line. For loops, if else blocks, we went through them, we know. Biggest thing, tuples, or really any iterable. So what if you took each individual one of those blocks and just added as an item to a tuple? Well, each one of those gets its own return value, and it iterates, or it executes one after the other. So you're able to get just one long string of commands, all that only take up one line, so you can add them as an argument in a tuple. And they work exactly as is. And if you do want to say, hey, I want to call back to that previous one, you add another tuple around it, and you can select an index and use it again. It's honestly, I really love this stuff. So I do get a little excited. I know this probably isn't the most exciting thing, but it is interesting. I promise you, I didn't even get into it, but there's not really a ton you can do security-wise. My best guess for why this is important is you have a random exposed exec function. For whatever reason, you decide to do it exactly like this, even though that the exec function allows the capability to use a colon as a new line character, which sucks. I wish they'd force people to use it like this, but usability in Python has to go up, apparently. We can't have all our fun. But yeah, the other thing that I talked about previously, we have to convert all our equals to walrus operators. So like we said before, if we try to use a walrus operator outside where its return's really not going to go anywhere, it's going to get mad. Python's going to get mad. Similarly, if we try to set some variable equal to something else inside of a tuple, it gets mad because there's no return variable. So kind of inverse there. We have a solution. So let's see how everyone was paying attention, the demos. And I just realized they're on my other computer. Oh my. Ooh. Huh?
We can try again.
I'll zip them and send them to you.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's good. We can do that.
Yes, demos. Almost like I'm the tech lead. What is in this show off? I don't want people to hear. Okay, that's on. So, just a simple one. We're going to learn how to use the ternary operator. I know you guys weren't probably paying attention. I'm not too great of a host. So, first off, we can very simply condense this just using input and replacing it with language. That's not too hard. We can move this stuff over. So, take the walrus operator, use it, because now we don't have to use this twice. And now we've shrunk it down at least one line. And just further than that, we make it the full ternary. So as it goes, we take our if statement, Control X. We take whatever operation we're trying to do, if some condition, and then else, we will do something. And just like, oh, I didn't else. There we go. And just like that. Oh, yeah. What the hell?
You want to zoom in?
Yeah, there is definitely an issue with this. Like, definitely not the most readable stuff. Oh, I think it's just because I didn't. Wow. And if we type in Python, oh, capital P. Python is great. Okay. So we get a little bit of enthusiasm there. Okay, this one's a little bit longer. We're going to use that LF. So, again, we can condense it down a little bit, just getting rid of this. We now removed one line successfully. We have our print. That's our initial operation we want to perform. Again, we need to remember to put in those parentheses, or they'll be trying to assign something else. And, oh, Chandi says IO. And again, we have to break this up into an else and another if. So we have our print statement that Emmanuel was the tech lead. That goes right after, or right before our if, I should say. We have to reprint it. Or rint, yes, very rint. And then we have our, what is it, printed? Else. Yep. And then we have our final else. And say, I don't know who you are. We run it. I don't know, say we're Tenchi. Nope. Code injection. I don't know who you are. Works just like that. I know. We don't handle that stuff here. Okay. This stuff we're actually going to have to write a little bit. I can't just copy and paste. This isn't like class. So first thing we're going to want to, ultimately what our operation is going to be, we're going to printing that power I. So let's start off when you go into an array. We say we're going to be wanting to print some item I, and realistically we don't have to create a lambda and just do that. We'll do it for simplicity's sake. And then for an item I in range 10. Delete this stuff, all that code. Simple. Oh, I to the I? Okay, same thing. And it's working. I'm actually surprised. Python interprets 0 to 0 as 1. I didn't even think about that. 0 to the 0th as 1. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's like a famous math problem. I did not think it'd go like that. Oh, and here we go. Nested for loops. Everyone's favorite. Yes. So again, we start off with our whatever we want to put it in. We could do a tuple. We could do list. I just do a list just because I don't know. We have our ijk, which we want to print, and we start with the furthermost in for k in range 10. Oh shit. Oh my god, I forget how to do this. Oh, that's what. I was wrong. We don't put that there yet. So k for k. So we're just printing out what k is, and then we want to print out. We want to know what j is for j in that iterable. Yeah, I just saw that. I'm not that special. I am special, though. Everyone knows it. What? I know. Everyone says so. My mom got me tested. I was so special. And for yeah, it actually is something like that, just because it's going to be taking the k, the I, the. I guess this isn't a perfect example. You can get a lot more complex. My solution was this, because it's going to be taking each of each. And this technically works. I didn't plan the best solution there. That's actually a little bit more complex doing it that. But yeah. Again, we see it work. I added a little bit too many ranges there. Okay. And our final one? I did this one already. If you look up Python, whatchamacallits, reverse shells, you get that ugly, and of course it's super toned down because Tenchi has its settings like this. So you see how I was talking about, it's like all the semicolons to do it, you break it up, and you have something like this. You're like, okay, cool, that's short enough. That makes a reverse shell, I guess. But if we do it like this, we're able to specify at the front where our IP is, and we keep it. What our port is, and we keep it. Then we create our socket. We import the socket. We actually set up the socket that creates the socket, or it doesn't create it yet, or that creates it, yes. Then it connects it. Then we're able to import operating system and dupe it. And we're even at that point where we are able to assign what the OS is. Actually, we need that. Didn't make it technically work. And again, we reuse the OS because we've already assigned it. We use it again. And finally, we have that sub-process call, which we don't have to save because we only use it once. And I think that technically works. It's reaching out to something, but it's not working, especially because I put in, because it's getting mad at this. That makes more sense. But yeah, sub-process is not defined. Do you not have sub-process? Oh, damn. Oh, no questing on stream. But yeah. Integer. What did I mess up? But yeah, I don't know. There is fun debugging with this. You'll learn something more about Python. Definitely easier debugging than my previous JavaScript one, if anyone saw that. Bro, it's on line 11. Damn. Oh, big brain. Sorry, I wasn't even reading. I was just hoping something would pop out. Yep, connection refused. But yeah, this isn't very fun. It's functional, but you don't want to function like this. Someone said yes, I do, and you're my new best friend. There you go. Yeah. Immediately added to A board. I don't know. That was definitely a lot. I highly implore everyone to learn about the intricacies of Python because it is both amazing and kind of disgusting. I love it though. Any questions? Yes, the question was if Brad could come to me with all his implants and I'll make it into one line. And as long as it's Python, yes. There technically is a way to do classes in a single line. So the only thing that sucks about it is it is not subscriptable inside of a tuple. So this is pretty much only for scripting, which is sad, but it is what it is. But you can do it one line if you're only making the class. To call the class, you'll need a second. So.
Would my professor get mad at me if I use walrus?
So the question was if the professor would get mad. I think the professor would give his tenure to you. If you submit an entire assignment like this, you got a new job at RIT there, bud.
Yeah, the professor won't be mad, the TA will be pissed.
Yeah, TA. Oh, you're gonna lose a TA for your new professor position, but like you got a professor position. I think it's a worthy trade-off. Any other questions? Cool.